again, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and welcome to my next Tops List videos, where this time I'll be sharing with you my top 5 favorite female X-Men characters. Now, if you happen to miss my top 5 favorite male X-Men characters, you can press the link in the description down below to take you to that video. So, starting off real simple with my number 5 pick in terms of female X-Men characters, I picked Kitty Pryde, or aka Shadowcat. The reason I really like Kitty Pryde / Shadowcat is not so much for her powers, because in terms of her powers, she's pretty limited. I mean, she can walk through walls, she can move through material items, and that's really about it. I mean, she can't really do the whole time thing from Days of Futures Past. But I think it's just her overall personality. I really liked her a lot. Maybe not so much in the comic books, because I really didn't read too much into her, but certainly from the X-Men animated show, X-Men Evolution. She was kind of always like that, I won't say party girl, but kind of the character that really kind of lightened up everyone when things were getting really bad. And you really need someone like that. Like, when things get really bad, you need someone to kind of cheer you up. And I think Shadowcat really could do that very much. And I think that's something I need very, very desperately, because I have a lot of my dark moments these days. And I really don't have too many people to cheer me up. So I think Shadowcat could do that for me pretty well. And, I thought she had a really interesting relationship with Colossus / Peter Rasputin. So, that's why Shadowcat is number 5 on my list. Going on into number 4, I picked X-23, or the genetic clone of Wolverine. What I really liked about X-23 is that she's pretty much, to her core, she's kind of like a female version of Wolverine, but like, as Wolverine is kind of like a bit of a mature asshole, like X-23 is kind of like an immature bitch. She's got a, believe it or not, she's got a much hotter temper than Wolverine, which is a bit surprising. And unlike Wolverine's set of claws, she actually has claws coming from both her hand, her fists, and her toes, which is a little bit weird. And I don't know, I think that once she joined the X-Men, I think there were a lot of parallels to Wolverine, but when you really put them side to side, you kind of can understand why Wolverine, in a way, is a little bit more of a likable character. I mean, X-23, she's a fun character too, and I think she was definitely would have been a very solid member of the X-Men. I just think she was kind of like the Batman of her era of X-Men team. She was always kind of the one that was bringing the most friction, and was always one that kind of stood on the sideline. Not really on the sideline, she kind of stood apart from the rest of her teammates. And I don't know, I guess sometimes in a team you need a hothead, you need kind of like that Raphael or that Batman of the team, because it always keeps the team always interesting. And I always felt that whether she was with the X-Men or not, anytime she was brought up in the comic books, she always did that for whatever storyline she was a part of. And why she hasn't been brought in a live-action film, I don't know yet. I think she would be a very interesting character. I mean, maybe when they reboot the X-Men franchise, and once they, like, obviously recast Wolverine with a different actor, maybe we can finally see X-23, because I think having conversations between these two characters, which technically she's a clone of Wolverine, would be a very, very interesting set of scenes. Going on into number 3, I picked Emma Frost. Emma Frost is really one of those characters who is just as much interesting as a villainous character as she is being part of the X-Men team. I mean, for those of us that, for those who don't know, she was actually a first part of the Hellfire Club, and then over time she started her own club, and then later on in certain storylines she actually ended up being a very prominent member of the X-Men. And in terms of her powers, I've always believed that, from my point of view, she was probably, out of all the X-Men or its history, I would put her probably the second most powerful telepath, right below Professor Xavier. I did always believe she was a lot more powerful than Jean Grey without her Phoenix powers, and she has the ability to turn her body into crystal, and that's always a cool effect. And what makes Emma Frost so interesting is that she, in many ways, is kind of like a chameleon. Not like Mystique chameleon, but a chameleon as in she is willing to do what is necessary to help her own cause, and at times she's very conflicted with herself. I mean, sometimes she wants to follow that I'm only in it for me type character, but when she was in the X-Men, she was definitely much more of a heroic character. She was willing to sacrifice herself more often and generally learn to care about her teammates, and I think that is a tremendously very interesting character development arc, and that's really not something we've seen much in other characters of the X-Men. I mean, if they're really good at being a villain, then they usually should stay as a villain, and the same goes with heroes. But I think Emma Frost was really the one character that actually was just as good of a hero as she was as a villain, and that's why she's number 3 on this list. Going on to number 2, I picked Jean Grey / the Phoenix. The reason I have to add Phoenix is because Jean Grey on her own, she's interesting to a point, but maybe it's just because of her relationship with Scott Summers / Cyclops. But holy shit, once you get those Phoenix powers up, holy shit, is she very interesting and incredibly powerful too. I mean, arguably, in my opinion, right below Apocalypse, she's probably the most dangerous X-Men character in the franchise. I mean, way above Magneto, way above Mr. Sinister, way above a whole bunch of different mutants. And I think it's just the constant battle that Jean Grey has to have with this Phoenix that makes her a much more interesting character, because it is a battle. I mean, sometimes the Phoenix will help the X-Men, sometimes she will try to kill the X-Men, and it really brings to a lot of really difficult moral choices for the team, because there are times where, you know, Wolverine and Scott and the X-Men, they're in a difficult position where you have to kill Jean because she's just too unpowerful, and there's some times where, you know, we have to protect her because she's one of us. And it's that type of moral balancing just stability that she brings to the X-Men team that really elevates her to me as a character. I mean, she's this incredible threat, but she's part of the team, and so it kind of brings us an impossible choice. And, you know, although I'm a little bit disappointed with how they handled the Phoenix in live-action films, I'd be willing to give it a second chance if they'd be willing to do it justice this time around, because Phoenix, I think, was not really given much justice. She just seemed to be someone who just crazy and just started just killing people, and that's not really what the Phoenix is all about. The Phoenix is a powerful entity with a mind of its own and it's highly intelligent, and we really have not seen it. And once we get a proper interpretation of Phoenix on the big screen, I think we are in for one hell of an X-Men film. Maybe later down the road when they decide to reboot the franchise. And that leads me to number 1. My favorite female X-Men character of all time has to be Storm. What I liked about Storm is, this is hard to explain because there are multiple interpretations of Storm, and I'll get into the Halle Berry version at the end. But Storm is really one of those characters in which her presence at all times demands respect. I mean, if you read some of the older comics, anytime Storm walks into a room, everyone will just look over and it's like, oh shit, Storm's in the house now. And she's just incredibly powerful, able to control the weather, and she's been through a number of changes. And I know a lot of people don't really like the Halle Berry version, but let me give my thoughts on it. The Halle Berry version of Storm, for me at least, was more reminiscent of how Storm was in X-Men Evolution, in which she's not really that incredibly powerful, like, deadly mutant, but she's kind of like a, you know, a nice aunt that you have. Like, you know, like, if you don't piss her off, you know, she's cool to hang out with, but, you know, get her mad and, you know, get the hell out of the area. And, you know, she's just a really down-to-earth type character. But I know some people are certainly more in tune with the, you know, incredibly awesome power Storm. And I am too with certain storylines, but I think that just makes Storm very interesting is that there are multiple different versions of her, and they're all interesting. I mean, with some characters, depending on their storylines, like maybe there's certain storylines where, like, someone like Wolverine will be more interesting in this storyline than he will be in this storyline, and that really is kind of how most X-Men characters are. It really depends on the storyline. But I felt that as a whole, Storm has always been interesting to a balancing level in every storyline she's been a part of, whether she's had a big part or a small part. And that is why Storm, to me, is my favorite female X-Men character of all time. Now, I'd really like to know, what are your guys' favorite female X-Men characters? Please tell me your list in the comments down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to check me my future videos. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.